The first ever road trip across the United States took over 2 months. But fortunately for us, with today's technology, we managed the trek in 4 days. Long story short, my long distance partner had to bring his car from the east to west coast, and I came along for the ride. He drove from New York to Chicago to pick me up, and we planned to break the rest of the journey into 3 parts. Chicago to Boulder, Boulder to somewhere in Utah, and Utah to LA. So with over 1,000 miles ahead of us to Boulder, we left Chicago at 5 a.m. I was first up to drive, so obviously I couldn't record anything, but it was so foggy. 5 hours later, we stopped for a pick-me-up and switched off, and with only 442 miles to go till our next turn, we started on an audiobook thriller someone recommended called Look Closer by David Ellis. This kept us occupied for a while, but not gonna lie, I hate driving through the Midwest because it's so flat and there's nothing to look at. Though I was thankful that cars can go pretty fast nowadays compared to when the first person drove across the United States in 1903. Dr. Horatio Nelson Jackson left from San Francisco toward New York City on May 23, 1903. His trip was kind of impromptu. He bet $50 that these new high-tech automobiles could survive a drive across the country in less than 90 days. Roads were not incredibly well developed at that time, so they encountered numerous obstacles and car malfunctions. Luckily, today we have relatively well-maintained highways and plenty of gas stations, so we don't have to lug around gas jugs like him. Reading about this first road trip in an open-air horseless carriage also made me incredibly thankful for enclosed cars. After I drove for 3 hours, we made a quick bathroom stop in still the middle of nowhere, and it was 90 degrees in mid-May. And then the weather took a turn for the worse. I missed almost every single state line sign during this trip, but we hit Colorado around 4:30 and stopped for a lovely gas station dinner. The entire afternoon had been clear blue skies, but as we drove on, we started approaching very ominous looking clouds. Within minutes, we were in the middle of a severe hailstorm, and unfortunately, there isn't anywhere to take cover when you're surrounded by thousands of acres of farmland. But after a terrifying 20 minutes, we were in the clear and were greeted by a rainbow to signal the worst was over. In contrast to our route, Horatio completely avoided Colorado, but instead went north into Oregon and followed part of the Oregon Trail through Idaho, Wyoming, and into Nebraska. And fun fact, in Idaho, they picked up a bulldog named Bud, and they gave him little goggles to protect his eyes. Once they made it to Cheyenne, Wyoming, it took them roughly 4 more weeks to reach Chicago. But for us, driving about that same distance took only 14 hours. We arrived in Boulder around 8 p.m., and after dropping off our stuff at the hotel, we grabbed some dinner at the kitchen, walked around Pearl Street, and grabbed a drink at Stella's Cucina. And finally, after the 4 a.m. wake up, driving through fog, cornfields, and a hailstorm, we got to sleep around 11 p.m. For Horatio and his team, they completed their 63-day, 12-hour, and 30-minute journey to a quiet Manhattan on July 26th at 4:30 in the morning. An uneventful end to an eventful trip. But the next day, they were on the front page of all the local newspapers. Alas, we did not receive the same fanfare at the end of our journey, but stay tuned for the rest of our road trip.